Hello, beautiful, and welcome to Finding Fertility. I'm your host, Monica Cox from FindingFertility.co, and I created this podcast to help get you to start thinking outside of the box and realize that your infertility might have nothing to do with your lady bits. Rooted in functional medicine and personal experience, Finding Fertility is all about looking at the whole body and finding the root cause of your infertility. Finding Fertility does not diagnose, prescribe, or treat any issues of infertility, but what we do is take a holistic approach and improve your diet and your lifestyle to get you steps closer to creating your dream family. Just by being here with me, listening to this podcast, you're already going down the right path to making your dreams come true. Let's do this together.
Happy Friday, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Finding Fertility. I'm your host, Monica Cox, and I am so honored you are here becoming the conscious mama you were born to be. Today, we have Marc's second half of his episode. I hope you enjoyed the first. If you missed it, go back. It's not one to be missed. So without further ado, let's get to today's episode.
If we just do the same thing that we've been doing and we don't change what we're doing, then time's not on our side. Then we're not using it proactively. But if you're going to be proactive, make changes, utilize it to become healthier, then I've had many people say, I'm a year or two older and I have better quality eggs today and responded better to my IVF cycle than I did X amount of years ago. I see that and hear it all the time. It's because we utilize that properly, so I think we can, but we have to trust, like you have to be okay moving forward with it. And I think the hardest thing with time as we get older is this fortitude to keep going. It's hard to keep going. Like if you've been doing it for a while and you've had negative results, or it's just a lot of effort, it's draining, so that is hard, I find, for some. And for some, it just takes 6 months and that they're like, I'm done. Others, it could be 6 years and they're like, I'm still going. Right. So for everybody, it's just different. It's different for each one of us, what we can put in and how and how we can, manage through it all. But I think that also needs to be factored into how we manage our fertility journey, because we shouldn't be giving up our life. We shouldn't be stopping living just to try to get pregnant. We do need to be able to move through and enjoy life, because if not, then we have a lot of regrets. We build up anger and resentment, and that makes things all, much more difficult in every aspect.
Yeah, and the ironic bit is that when you surrender, when you let go, when you start living life, bringing the joy back, doing the things that you love, it literally boosts your cellular health and you get pregnant. Like that whole just relax is science-backed. Like that is true. Just take the just out and put in the tools to, because what I say is, like, most women and men, but I mostly work with women, they show up to a fertility journey the same way they've been showing up through life. So most are all type A. So you've been type A-ing your whole life. You've gotten everything you want, you have achieved, but in that achievement, society didn't tell you you're stressing your adrenals, your cortisol levels are out, your gut health probably sucks, your, endocrine system, your nervous system is jacked, which you all need for a healthy pregnancy. So now you're trying to do the same thing in a fertility journey, and it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
The only way it's going to work is if you do multiple rounds of IVF and get that lucky egg.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're not doing yourself any work. So it is unpacking, most of my discovery calls at the end of it, they're just like, what just happened? That's not what I came here to talk to you about. I wanted to know about my supplements, my diet, this and that. I'm like, you've got that. That's easy stuff. The hard stuff is all the stuff you've been avoiding, the way you've been operating. Start unpacking that, and your fertility journey is gonna be a breeze. Yes, like you said, some 6 months, some it is gonna take years. I've had clients where it has taken years. because of whatever level they were at before. And I also think what level of surrender they're ready for, right?
Yeah. This piece of surrender or relax, I call it letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally had this conversation this morning with someone. Um, in the fertility world, because most people you mentioned are type A, and we're trying to like, oh yeah, I'm going to type A this the way I've done everything else. And I call it, you try to strangle your fertility.
Yeah.
You are trying to hold on so tight and control every little aspect of all of it. It doesn't work. Most things that are created in life are created in space,
Mm-hmm.
not when they're constricted.
Yeah.
So for me, we need to create space. And the only way to do this, we got to let go.
Mm-hmm.
We got to ease up a little bit. It's okay if you're not perfect with everything. It's okay if, you miss whatever this week or next week or whatever. And though all those things are totally fine, but we do have to, whatever word you want to put into it, if you want to say relax, ease up, let go, we have to surrender to the process a little bit and not try to control all of it. It doesn't mean that by surrendering or letting go that like, okay, you're going to eat, gallons of ice cream. And,
Yeah.
that's not what I mean. I mean, it means like, you're going to be okay, but you're going to like stay balanced and you're going to manage things appropriately. And okay, if you want to drink from time to time, fine. It's not the end of the world. And, go on vacation and enjoy life. Like we have to get out there and enjoy life so that our body can be part of all of this and that we're not so constricted and wound up and tight and adrenally compromised
Yeah.
as a result. It's that those are where the issues are.
Yeah. Well, you can't want and have at the same time.
100%.
So if you can get that into
Yeah.
your mind, that if you're in this complete want, desperate zone, the chances of having it are pretty slim.
Right.
And, I was on a discovery call yesterday and it was with a religious woman. And I was saying, okay, how do you pray? And she's like, well, please, God, give me this, or please, Allah, give me this. I said, okay, change your words.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for the body that you designed that is a healing machine and can welcome my baby into me. Thank you for
Right.
still allowing me to have these things and sitting in that gratitude, not in that desperation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I I like that example and what she said. She was showing you how she prayed, but it's true. You cannot want and have at the same time, and that's a hard concept for people to wrap their head around, because when you start asking them to meditate or pray or journal, it's I want to be pregnant. So then you're telling the universe that all you want to do is want, you want to desire, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to having all that you need.
Yeah.
And those are two different things, very different things that you're telling the universe, when you are writing those things down. So I think it's really important that we are very clear and specific with the words we choose when we are praying, meditating, journaling, whatever it might be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the first thing I switched up was I always used to say, if I get pregnant. If I get
Right.
pregnant, it doesn't matter. You're protecting yourself. You're putting up these walls. So while you're protecting
Right.
yourself, you're blocking everything as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, when I get pregnant. And
Right.
that's when the subconscious mind clicks in and goes, when? Okay. So then therefore we can get pregnant. So therefore we're going to start showing up for ourselves in this physical world, because you need both. When I see these kind of more spiritual leaning fertility people just trying to tell people you can manifest a baby without doing the physical stuff, I'm like, it's both people. Like we need
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, you totally need both. You can't do it without both of them, because then you're just isolating these two parts and keeping them separate, and they're not separate.
Mm-mm.
They're one in our body, and we need to approach it in that way. Yeah, some people might need more of one versus the
Yes.
other, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. But
Yeah.
we still need to look at both sides and support both sides.
And how do you help direct your clients figuring out what they need to hyper focus on? What is, your key methods of getting them down the right track?
The first thing that I always do is I want to clean up the more physical side of things, because I feel like there's a lot of answers or a lot of questions that need answers that haven't been gotten yet, for most of the individuals that I'm supporting. But then I also I want to hear from them. I'm like listening to their words, listening to how they're talking, what they're saying, so that I can, okay, so we need more support on this side of things. We need to add, we need to make sure that you're structuring your day a little bit more here. So in my assessment, we are looking at all things physically, and that goes to hormones, to the gut, to sleep, to diet, really wanting to just understand the overall life that they're living and what areas are deficient. You mentioned something like this earlier in the conversation. I can't remember what it was alluding to, but most of us spend time, because it's easier, on the things that we are good at, right? Or that we're more comfortable with. And so if they say, oh yeah, I've got the diet thing down because I like to meal prep and this and that. Okay, I'm not going to spend time. I want them to actually spend much less time doing that.
Yeah.
And I want to focus on the areas that really need more attention that they've been avoiding, right? Whether consciously or subconsciously, they've been avoiding it, because it is easier. If we look at all of our habits, like, okay, it's easier for me to answer my emails because it just tells me what to do. It's just directing me, and this is one's next and this one's next. Well, if it's easier for me because it's more comfortable for me because I like to cook and so forth, then maybe there's some little tweaks we need to do there, but we don't have to spend a lot of time there. But what are the areas that we're avoiding? And what areas do we know? So like, what areas that are affecting you that you would like to see change or improve is one of the questions I ask, because I want to just get from their perspective, what does that look like? And then I can look back and see, oh, but they haven't really been. So they know these areas need to be improved, but they're not spending time in those areas. They're not putting effort into those areas. Okay, so we need to put effort into those areas. The other thing is that couples often feel like they've got to do everything. So if I'm creating a plan and I put all these things in the plan, I go, I've got to do all of these things. No, all of these things are in the plan because I want you to be aware of it. But I don't expect you to do all of them. Like, I don't think it's possible to do all of these things. And I think that would be more stressful. So let's pick some. Let's manage this, right? I want to meet couples where they're at, and help it be more manageable to do, right? Because if you're putting a list out for somebody and this is just so daunting that they're not going to do it anyway, then we're not making any progress.
Yeah.
So I'd rather we meet halfway in the middle, and at least we're making that progress, and we can build on that as time goes by, because you're more comfortable with it. Okay, I can add a little bit more, or I can do this, and this is much easier now. So I think that's really important. It's not all or nothing. I think it's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I look at my life and see what I'm able to do now, but that took me, a decade to get there. Seriously a decade. And I'm still practicing and I'm still not perfect. And it is getting radically honest with yourself and saying, where can I at least start and build from there? Because I think going back to the whole time poor thing, yeah, if you do everything we put on a list for you, immediately, your results are going to be insane. But is that even, like you say, possible? Probably not, because what's running you is your subconscious, and you have programs that you don't even know are running. And so when you work with someone and they say, okay, here, we want to just start with these three steps, and you can't do two of them. You've paid someone thousands of dollars and you can't do those, like 2 out of 3 steps. Why?
Mhm.
What's going on that you're blocking yourself? You don't think you're worthy, you don't love yourself, like whatever it is. There's multiple reasons. But that's where it's a radical self-honesty, and people have to start showing up for themselves in that way because the information's out there. There's no excuse. Our YouTube channels alone, people can get pregnant naturally within 6 months, right?
100%.
Like, and there's another 100 amazing people out there as well. So you don't have to pay anyone a penny to do this stuff. You don't have to buy a program, a PDF, whatever. But most people don't, because they don't have that radical self-honesty and they don't have that accountability. And that was a big thing for me. I paid a coach thousands of dollars for accountability.
Yeah.
And once
And
people figure that out, and the accountability can be, you don't need a coach, you don't need thousands of dollars. You have to find what keeps you accountable.
yeah, you're working with a coach because you need someone to push you, to keep you motivated, to keep you accountable, whatever it is that you need to have that support for. But like you said, there's tons of information out there. I've had plenty of people say, I watched every one of your videos. I made all these changes. Thank you so much. I now have my little baby.
Yeah.
And I love hearing it. That's awesome. Right.
Yeah.
Other people need something different to get there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when I was going through this, social media wasn't used for fertility.
Right.
I really learned all this stuff by listening to kind of like the bro dudes, like Dave Asbury, Sean
Yeah.
Croxton, all those guys, and just piecing it together. Like, oh, that's linked to this, so that must be linked to fertility. Oh, I have that, so maybe I'll just work on that, and then hopefully that will support my fertility. So I look at some of us women who are more on the coach side of things, have the functional medicine, subconscious empowerment, all that. But we literally created this industry because it wasn't there, and we wish we had it. And if your YouTube channel would have been on when I was going through this, I would have been like, yes, like, but there was like nothing. So I really truly think there's no excuses now. I know that sounds really harsh, but that's like, I'm your honest best friend, right? Like, I'm going to give it to you raw. There's enough information. Now, tapping into your intuition, getting back to our original conversation, and using your discernment, because that's another big thing for people, that it's so much information out there. I would even say that like not everyone's even saying the same thing.
Mhm.
And going back and trusting yourself. What resonates? Trying something out, seeing if it does work for 3 months. If it doesn't, time isn't lost. If you're doing healthy habits, it gets you a little bit closer to your steps. You might just have to fill in those missing pieces, like me with my diet. I was healthy. Like, even if I came to you at the time, you would have looked at me and been like, I don't know. I had such a silent autoimmune issue that like I was barely even having any symptoms. And so luckily I got the testing, and it proved that I had high natural killer cells. But yeah, keep going. There's all these little pieces that could just be, your last little one. And it's worth trying it. It's worth going. If the journey ends, hopefully in a very positive way, but if not, because we can't control everything, you can look back at your journey and be proud of yourself and go, well, at least I'm not going to wonder. At least I'm not going to wonder if I would have done this or that, if it would have made a difference.
Right. Absolutely. And I like this approach of trying things out and checking it out. What I like to caution people against is I find that most couples don't give things enough time when they're
Yeah.
trying it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they saw something on YouTube or read about it and they're like, okay, I'll try that. And then after 2 weeks, 4 weeks, oh, I'm not pregnant. Okay, what's next? Right.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks or 4 weeks in the fertility world is a very short period of time. It's really not enough. And one cycle is not enough to see if something is working or not. So I want you to give things time,
Mm-hmm.
give it 3 months, 4 months, see what happens. Then if it didn't work, okay, we could try something different, shift gears. Hopefully you're not totally compounding and adding and adding and adding. So we've got to be careful of how we do it, because if not, we end up with the person with the, two big shopping bags full of supplements and be like, I'm taking all these things. And so, and I'm not saying that I don't recommend supplements, I do, but it's really focused, and there's a reason and a method behind it, versus saying, oh, I saw this and I saw this, so I'm going to start taking all these things. So
Yeah.
we have to give things enough time, because often we don't. We're like, oh, it's been 6 weeks and nothing's changed, and so
Yeah.
we've got to we have to, give it the space to be successful or not before we change gears too quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you do this too. It's focusing on other little goals, right? If you focus
Yeah.
solely on the pregnancy, you are going to feel like nothing's going to work,
Yep.
right? Even
Yeah,
IVF, IUI, all that. So,
Yeah.
you dial it back to your normal and common health issues. I think the hard part is when you get to a certain, like when I went to do my second round of IVF, you couldn't fault my health. That was the issue. And
Right.
with hindsight, I can look at a few little things in my health that I was like, yeah, but everything improved so dramatically that you wouldn't think that was an issue anymore. And that's where people get like caught up, just like you say, is like there was a little things missing for me, but it was the time as well. And it's really, just really important that time is on your side. It takes 3 months for your egg to mature anyways.
Right.
So that's baseline. Baseline
Yeah.
3 months.
At minimum 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what I'm sure you say as well is like, okay, give it 3 months to get rid of all the inflammation, and then 3 more months for your egg to mature in a healthy environment.
Yeah, we have to give that space and the time, and we are looking for results in a month or 2 months, and our reproductive clock doesn't work in those increments of time. So we need to give time and space to clean things out and repair, and then we've got to then the clock kind of starts at that point, and you're like, okay, now I got to try and give it some time of trying. So I get people who have said, I've been trying for 2 years, but I really started making changes 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so we're going to use the 6-month time frame as, where we're starting from. They're like, no, it's been 2 years. I'm like, no, for me it's been 6 months.
Absolutely. My first 3 years is like X. Like that was not trying. Like nothing was ever gonna happen.
Yeah. I had someone recently who said, I've been trying for a year, but we only had intercourse one time at the right time during that year. I'm like, okay, so it's been a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And that's not enough data for anyone, right?
Right.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not. What would you, in like final words of just any advice of people who are in the thick of it? They're doing the diet, they're doing the lifestyle, they're doing all the things right. When your clients kind of get to the end of working with you, what is kind of your last, last hurrah of speech or encouragement to them? Because there is a time where you stop working with your coach and you have to go out and do it yourself now. You've got the tools, it's your time.
Yeah, I think for me, it's first and foremost, they've got to trust themselves and trust the process. Like, you've put a lot of effort in, you've made a lot of progress. It's no longer about what else can I do? What else can I add? What can I change? It's about maintaining where you're at, being consistent, and really giving it time. And that's not always what we want to hear, because that's hard. We always want to do one more thing to check off my list. But the reality is if you've done all the right things to prepare through, and whether your program or whatever it might be, and now there's no more things to change unless something impacts that. So it's really about maintaining, trusting in the process, trusting in yourself, believing in your ability to conceive and have a child, and then really just giving it time and space for that to occur. And I think that's really one of the hardest things that I ask couples to do, because it's no longer about doing and changing. It's
Yeah.
just about being and living at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree. Absolutely. Where can people find you, Mark?
My website, marcsklar.com. But as you mentioned, my YouTube channel is my favorite resource for everybody. It's called Fertility TV, hundreds and hundreds of videos. And if you go there and watch them, odds are, if you give it enough time, you can achieve your goal too with all that information.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Well, that will all be down in the show notes. I'm going to put this out in the universe. I think we should hook up in San Diego and do a live event. I
Oh,
think
I
that
would
would be
love that.
fun, wouldn't it?
That would be fun. That would be fun. Yeah, let's work on that.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. I truly appreciate your time, and I know we're going to hook up in the future soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you once again for tuning in to the Finding Fertility podcast. If you're loving this podcast, please leave us a rating and review and let us know how this podcast is supporting you to get steps closer to creating your dream family. I hope you have a beautiful weekend, and we will see you next Friday for another episode of the Finding Fertility podcast.